Now filming all three audience members. Handing it off. The attacks of September 11th were intended to break our spirit. Instead, we've emerged stronger and more unified. We feel renewed devotion to the principles of political, economic, and religious freedom, the rule of law, and the respect of human life. We are more determined than ever to live our lives in freedom. The words of Rudy Giuliani, former mayor of New York City, encapsulate the impact of one of the most tragic events of the last 100 years. Much like a 21st century Pearl Harbor, each person remembers where he or she was that day. My father was on temporary active duty in England. I was an 8-year-old watching the television broadcast of the two towers falling. Years later, my friend talked about all the subways being shut down in Manhattan. Everything stopped. Complete air traffic silence. Every channel broadcasting the first attack on U.S. soil in 60 years. One nation united in shocked stupor. The day of September 11th is easily the most important event in the last 100 years. Despite the fact that many events could be chosen for the distinction, nothing did more than that event to launch us politically and economically into the 21st century. Though many are familiar with the War on Terror, missions such as Operation Endeavor, Enduring Freedom, Active Endeavor, Enduring Freedom Afghanistan, and Operation Iraqi Freedom, September 11th was more importantly an assault on our nation's economic security. Bill Barhart, in his article, Markets Reopen Plunge, concluded that the attacks had a significant economic impact on the United States and world markets. The stock exchange did not open on September 11th and remained closed until September 17th. Reopening, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 684 points, or 7.1% to 89.21, a record-setting one-day point decline. According to Bob Fernandez, in the article U.S. Markets Decline Again, by the end of the week, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had fallen 1,369.7 points, 14.3%, its largest one-week point drop in history. In terms of 2001 dollars, the U.S. stock lost $1.4 trillion in valuation for the week. Jonathan Furbringer wrote in the stock publisher of New York Times, the opening of the New York Stock Exchange was delayed after the first plane crashed into the World Trade Center's North Tower, and trading for the day was canceled after the second plane crashed into the South Tower. NASDAQ also canceled trading. The New York Stock Exchange was then evacuated, as well as nearly all banks and financial institutions around Wall Street and in many cities across the nation. The London Stock Exchange and other stock exchanges around the world were also closed down and evacuated in fear of follow-up terrorist attacks. The New York Stock Exchange remained closed until the following Monday. This was only the third time in history that the New York Stock Exchange was closed for a prolonged period of time. Trading on the United States bond market also ceased, since the leading government bond trader, Cantor Fitzgerald, was based out of the World Trade Center. The New York Mercantile Exchange was also closed for a week after the attacks. Needless to say, the world of finance and investment was rocked beyond fathoming and was closely monitored by the government for stability in the future. The shock waves continued into the resource market and insurance industry as well. The economic effects of 9/11, a retrospective assessment, records gold prices spiked upwards from $215.50 an ounce to $287 an ounce in London trading. Oil prices also went upwards. Gas prices in the United States briefly shot up, though the spike in prices only lasted about a week. Risk Management and Insurance Review calculated insurance losses due to 9/11 were more than 1.5 times greater than the previous worst natural disaster of the nation, Hurricane Andrew. The losses included business interruption of $11 billion, property of $9.6 billion, liability of $7.5 billion, workers' compensation of $1.8 billion, and miscellaneous expenses of $2.5 billion. The firms with the largest losses included Berkshire Hathaway, Lloyd's, Swiss Re, and Munich Re, all of which are reinsurers, which lost approximately $2 billion each. Insurers, as a result, now rarely cover contingencies for terrorist attacks. The industry hardest hit by the attack was aviation and air travel. Economic effects of 9/11, a retrospective assessment stated, flights were grounded in various places across the United States and Canada that did not necessarily have the operational support in place, such as dedicated ground crews. A large number of transatlantic flights landed in Gander, Newfoundland, and Halifax, Nova Scotia, with the logistics handled by the Transport of Canada under Operation Yellow Ribbon. To help with the immediate needs for victims' families, United States Airlines and American Airlines both provided initial payments of $25,000. The airlines were also required to refund ticket purchases for anyone unable to fly. The 9/11 attacks compounded financial problems that the airline industry was already experiencing before the attacks. Share prices of airlines and airplane manufacturers plummeted. Midway Airlines was also on the brink of bankruptcy and shut down operations almost immediately after the attacks. Other airlines threatened with bankruptcy, and tens of thousands of layoffs were made the week following the attacks. To help the industry, the federal government provided an aid package including $10 billion in loan guarantees and $8 billion in short-term assistance. $5 billion for short-term assistance. Since then, the airlines have become increasingly a hybrid of government control and private enterprise. Truly, nothing has done more than the attack of 9/11 to launch us politically and economically into the 21st century. We've seen incredible evolutions in economic security. We've seen remarkable shifts in industries such as aviation, insurance, and petroleum. Prices have gone up, and security has increased exponentially. However, amongst the entire shift to the economic paradigm, the core American values have been made crystal clear. Economic security, patriotism, freedom, and loyalty. 9/11 truly was the day that began the 21st century militarily, economically, and socially. May we forever stay the land of the free and the home of the brave. God bless America.